Right. Okay. We've got a Hi everybody. Welcome to the Q&A session. So nice to see you all for the Regenerate Virginia Healthy Soils grants. I'm going to give people a couple more minutes to arrive, but feel free to turn your cameras on or off, however you prefer, and we will get started here in about 2 minutes.
I was debating, I do like the picture of me better than nighttime me.
Yeah, I know. The lights, the overhead lights are they're a little rough, at least here. I think we had a few more people that registered, so we'll just make sure they have time. Hi, Bob. How are you?
Sorry, good.
Awesome.
I'm gonna turn some lights out so I can see.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we had 3 people.
No.
All right. Now it's very dark in there, Bob. There you go.
Because it was a little creepy, Bob, with the lights off.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, maybe we'll go ahead and get started. And as people join us, we can catch them up. So my name's Amanda Cather. I'm the Mid-Atlantic Senior Program Manager for American Farmland Trust. And Mary, I think everyone knows you, but do you want to go ahead and?
Yes, Mary Sketch Bryant, Director of the Virginia Soil Health Coalition with Virginia Tech. I'm excited to be working with American Farmland Trust on this grant program.
And so tonight we are going to go through a very, very brief presentation that just kind of outlines the basics of the grants. And then we will really spend the bulk of our time talking about your questions. So hopefully we will be able to answer a few of them with the slideshow, but I know that there will be more and we're happy to answer them. So let me see if I can share. All right. Is that there? Can you see it? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So these grants, as you know, are the Regenerate Virginia Healthy Soils grants offered by American Farmland Trust and the Virginia Soil Health Coalition. And these are private funds, so they are not federal for what it's worth. And some folks have asked about that because it is possible to complement federal funds with these funds in a way that does not, it's not duplicating any effort or double counting. So for what it's worth, that is the case. The basics of these grants, we are offering up to $30,000 for a single producer or up to $50,000 for a group of producers. The terms are up to 40% at the beginning of the project, with another 40% after a 6-month check-in with AFT or Virginia Soil Health Coalition staff, and 20% when the final report is received. And the goal really is to fund innovation and adoption of regenerative systems focused on healthy soil as the kind of foundation of regenerative systems. And just, everybody defines regenerative farming differently. The way we are really looking at it as agricultural production that seeks to restore soil health, biodiversity, and ecosystem function while also, to the extent that it's possible, improving socioeconomic outcomes, including long-term farm viability and a more secure and equitable regional food system. So when we're thinking about regenerative farming, we're thinking about it kind of in a very large and holistic sense. And I will turn it over to Mary to just talk about soil health, the principles of soil health, because every single application that we fund, we want to connect somehow back to these principles of soil health. And they can be creative and innovative in the way that they connect back, but just making sure that this is the foundation of what you're proposing.
Thanks, Amanda. And I won't talk too long here because like Amanda said, I think that's, why the Virginia Soil Health Coalition really promotes and is found based on these 4 principles of soil health is because whether you have an urban garden in your backyard or 2,000 acres of soybeans, these same 4 principles can apply. It's going to look different. It's going to depend on your context, your soil type, but there's ways to apply them. And so that's, really what we're looking for with these grant programs is, how are you applying them in your operation or thinking about applying them and being creative, being innovative? So keep the soil covered. That kind of really core foundational principle, we kind of, think that's that first step in protecting the soil and buffering it, minimizing soil disturbance, whether that's physical, biological, chemical, minimizing of disturbance, maximizing living roots. So the more that you can have life on the soil year round. So it kind of is taking that step beyond keeping the soil covered. And then energizing with diversity. And some of you who've seen the principles elsewhere may see that there's often a 5th principle, and that is integrating livestock. And we kind of incorporate that in the energizing with diversity, considering livestock as a component of that diversity. So whether that's livestock, crop species diversity, other ways that you're considering that diversity in your operation. So Amanda, feel free and add anything else there. And here's just another kind of way that you can look at it too. And, a lot of times the Virginia Soil Health Coalition, we try and, think separate from practices. But it's also really helpful when you're trying to think, okay, how does this apply to my operation, to think what are some of those practices that this could look like, understanding that this is just one example. There are other ways that this can apply, and some of these may not work in your operation. But a few examples, if we're looking at cover, mulching, reduced tillage, cover crops, biomass, just increasing that biomass on the soil, minimizing disturbance, no or reduce till, maximize continuous living roots, crop rotation, relay crops, forage and biomass, perennial crops. And then maximizing biodiversity, we talked about the integrating livestock, crop rotation, crop diversity, agroforestry. So you can see a lot of diversity, and there's also some overlap between these. So we also are looking for, ways that you're applying multiple of these principles. It's not which one? It can be all 4. Honestly, ideally it's all 4, but just looking at, how they intersect too. And one more way to look at it, that these 4 principles on the maximize living roots and maximize biodiversity side, you're really feeding that soil biota, feeding that soil life that we talk about. That healthy soil is living soil. And then on the minimize disturbance and maximize soil cover, you're protecting that soil aggregation and organic matter. And those 2 sides, I guess, of the coin really intersect, and you kind of need them both to really build healthy soil. So we see the 4 principles, like showing them in this circle because they really do all intersect and play off of each other. And yeah, again, Amanda, add anything that I'm missing. It's all about the microbes. Yeah, soil life, any ways that we can build that ties into all the principles.
And I think the other thing that you say a lot, Mary, that I think is really important is it's all about your own context too. And you kind of mentioned this where it could be an urban farm, a huge row crop farm. The scale really isn't important for us with these grants. It's really about how you integrate these principles into your own context, and what it looks like is going to look different for every farm. That's really key. So what does this all mean? Basically, again, and I think we said this in our eligibility documents, but just clarifying again, what types of expenses are eligible? Yes, you can purchase equipment. Your own labor is definitely eligible, and we encourage you to think about it, because anytime you're implementing a practice, there's going to be labor for you involved. You can also pay someone else if you want. So you could have a contractor, for example, do some cover crop seeding for you, or however you spread compost, pay them to do that. Seed and other farm supplies, definitely eligible. Fencing, and that could be perimeter fencing, it can be interior fencing. For our purposes, it's not important whether that's permanent or temporary fencing. Both are eligible. Trees and other agroforestry plantings. Payments to advisors. So if you have a technical advisor, if you're working with someone at the district, if you're working with a private, and encourage you to put in funding for your advisors and make that significant if it needs to be. All your operating costs are also eligible. The list goes on, and we can talk more if you have questions about specific eligible expenses later. But we really want this to be very flexible, and for you to have the opportunity to think beyond what a traditional cost share might offer. And especially, to think about it, if you were going to take advantage of a federal or state cost share, what would be left out of that would feel really, really important to you to be able to put a whole system on your farm? And are there ways that you can use this flexible funding to help round out a cost share? That really is an appealing type of project to us as well. Anything else, Mary, you would add?
No, I think that really covered it. And yeah, we can answer any questions that folks have as well.
Requirements, that your farm needs to be located entirely within Virginia. Your project should address one or more of the principles of soil health in your context. We need an education or outreach plan, and that could be, you could host a field day. You can write a blog post you can write your CSA newsletter. You can work with Extension or your local district office, and they can host a field day for you. It can really be, it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be a burden. We just would like some form of educational product that you create as a result of this project to show folks what you've done. You need to describe the way soil health will be measured. That could be the NRCS soil health card. It could be you take a soil sample and send it to a soil health lab like the Cornell Comprehensive Assessment of Soil Health or the Haney test. You should definitely include that in your budget. If you're going to do a lab test, that should be part of what the grant covers. You can even do it by observation. You can pick it up, you can smell it, you can taste it, you can look at it, you can feel it in your hand, but we need some description. We don't expect that over the course of these 2 years that there's going to be a huge change in the soil health on your farm. But we want you to measure it, and we want you to start to think about what you might expect to see change over time as a result. And then you need to complete the reporting requirements, which are not very high. We like to see photos. We want to see a brief write-up, and then your education plan. But it's not a lot, but that will. And we want to make this a light lift for farmers. We don't want this to be a lot of strings attached, a huge, heavy burden. What we really want is for you to focus on the innovation, the creativity, and telling the story of what that does on your farm. What else would you add, Mary?
No, just emphasize that piece about the soil health measurement. That part of that too is that process of observing and measuring, and we understand that there's no perfect way. If there was a perfect way to measure soil health, we would that would be great, but there's not. So there's a lot of flexibility in there, and yeah, there's no test of well, you didn't improve your organic matter by X%, so.
Yeah. And that's really our whole presentation. So we would really like to spend the rest of the time answering your questions. I've put our contact information up here, but I'm going to stop sharing. I will put it back up again at the end, but I'll stop sharing so that we can really have a conversation